Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here with this special edition of GSU E&I Radio, and I'd like to thank our sponsor today, OnPay. Without them, we could not be doing this important work and sharing these stories. Today on GSU E&I Radio, we have Jason Aldrich. He's the Assistant Dean, and he works with strategic partnerships and career advancement with the Robinson College of Business. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get too far into things, tell us about your role as Assistant Dean. What kind of work are you doing regarding strategic partnerships and career advancement?
Sure. I've been with Robinson for almost 15 years, and we've built up a career services operation that supports our undergraduate and graduate students in their efforts to find internships and full-time jobs. And so we've got teams of people that do that work. We also provide the technical infrastructure to support students at distance. So that's, software systems that post jobs and internships, that provide all sorts of content to help folks through the job search process, career exploration, et cetera. In addition, on the strategic partnership side, the Dean, Rich Phillips, has asked me and a couple other folks on my team to really, partner with key areas across campus and in the college to really grow our industry relationships and develop true partnerships with companies. Great examples are some of the work we're doing with Truist around our insight sprints. The Delta Student Success Center is an example of our strategic partnership work, but just lots of opportunity to really grow and nurture and develop great partnerships with top companies here in Atlanta and really across the country. And then there's another piece to what we do around what we call signature programs. So these are special programs for students who, often take a class in within a program. For example, Women Lead is a signature program, or our PACE program. So these are programs where we really provide students with immersive and experiential opportunities that are unique and special, and our office contributes quite a bit to those efforts as well.
So now, part of your work is to help the student, I guess, find the right path for them. During this time, are you working primarily with students that are currently students, or are they recent graduates, alumni? Like, what's the scope?
Yeah, we serve all of those populations. When we first went into the quarantine, we really focused on transitioning what used to be in-person services to virtual. So we're doing lots of virtual meetings and appointments with students one-on-one. We're offering virtual career fairs. We've actually held 2 already. We're providing all kinds of career content in a virtual way. And again, that runs the gamut from current students to recent graduates to alums. In fact, next week, we're partnering with the Alumni Association and University Career Services to offer something called the Graduate Career Festival. It's a 4-day event where we'll provide students and alumni with access to the top career authors in the country in a virtual way. There'll be a series of webinars from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock starting on Monday and proceeding all the way through Thursday. So, we do a lot to try to help folks at scale during times like this, and that's really been our focus lately.
Now, for the recent graduate, do you have any advice how to navigate this? Because this is a tricky time. My son, full disclosure, is a graduate of GSU, and he just graduated this past May. So this is kind of uncharted territories for a lot of these kids, and he feels, I know, a little untethered and has some questions on how to proceed. Do you have any advice?
Sure. Yeah, a couple of things. And, first, I think we do need to acknowledge that it truly is unprecedented. We've seen somewhere between 50 and 60% of internships this summer either canceled or moved online. into some sort of virtual experience. A fairly high percentage of full-time offers have been either delayed or rescinded, depending on what industry sector you're in. Some have been hit harder than others. So, absolutely want to acknowledge that that's everything your son's feeling, I think is, lots of college students are feeling that way. Secondly, I think, what we're seeing is a lot of students are adapting to the environment by taking some additional classes this summer to continue to upskill. They may be searching and looking for those virtual internships. Some companies have been very nimble, and we've actually had students lose internships and then turn around and find new ones that are being offered in a virtual way. So I think the biggest thing, when you're under stress and you're in a bit of a crisis like we are, most people have a tendency to sort of freeze up and, as you said, feel untethered. What our office tries to do is, be there to engage and give students proactive next steps that they can work on. There's always something you can do to keep advancing your career, even if it's just updating your LinkedIn profile or updating your resume, or, as I said, taking an additional class. I think for the recent grad, somebody that finished here in May or even back in December, May or August here, it could be really challenging. And so you probably need to take a step back and really think about, what do I want to do longer term? And so how do I use this time to kind of position myself for that? So if maybe you were thinking about graduate school down the road, maybe you decide to go back to graduate school right away and stay in school. Others might say, no, I really need to work and earn money. How do I find some kind of role in the field that I'm interested in? Or maybe it's a combination of project work and volunteer work in the industry that I'm interested in. But again, it's all about having a plan. And I think if anybody's sort of frozen up or feeling untethered, my advice is to activate your mentor network, activate your career services staff, and through Robinson if you're a Robinson student or alum, and let's start working on a plan to move you forward.
Now, is there anything that you have access to in your everyday kind of work that you're like, man, I wish more students would take advantage of this. This is just so valuable. And it's a shame that more students aren't kind of leveraging, A, B, and C here. Are there some things that you see every day that it just blows your mind that more people aren't kind of taking advantage of?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think the top of mind is we have a great platform called Handshake. Handshake has become the sort of the default career services platform in the country. Over 900 schools use it. And that's where the vast majority of companies, large and small, post jobs, internships, part-time jobs for college students. And so it does boggle my mind that we don't have 80 or 90% of our students in that system with a updated resume and actively using it. I think it's just absolutely the best place to look for high quality career opportunities for college students. Secondly, we have all sorts of events that we see 200-300 students RSVP and only 100 show up, even in this virtual space. And so I think part of what folks need to understand is that moving your career forward takes a real time commitment. And I think they need to really think of it like, geez, I'm taking a 3-credit class called I need an internship or I need a job. And they've got to plan accordingly. And it's not about putting all your eggs in one basket, right? It's a little bit of maybe one-on-one coaching, a little bit of online resources, a little bit of talking to people in your broader network. But they need a plan. And I think if you don't have a plan or you don't even know how to make one, what's disappointing to me is that we've got a pretty good sized team of folks that are ready to engage with you to do that. And we can do it, virtually. So there's really no excuse to, for sitting back and not moving forward.
So now let's talk a little bit about the strategic partnerships. What kind of companies are a good fit to be working with you in this regard? Is it something that are like kind of the classical large enterprise businesses? Or are you open to kind of relationships with up and coming businesses? What is the kind of the optimal strategic partnership from the Robinson standpoint?
Well, I think there's a couple of criteria. One is, you've got to be interested in the longer term relationship with the college. It's easy to post a job or come to a career fair or send somebody to be a guest speaker, but a strategic partnership really involves engagement in a variety of activities, annually over multiple years. So, we're looking for companies that really want to go deep in terms of being fully engaged in the college. And we have so many wonderful opportunities to do that. You can serve on advisory boards. You can be a mentor. You can get involved in recruiting students into jobs and internships. You can be a guest speaker in a class. And so we're looking for not necessarily companies that are, have, a large footprint necessarily, but those that really want to be engaged. So you don't have to be a Fortune 50 company to be a strategic partner. You've got to be willing to get involved and stay involved. Certainly, there are some parts or pieces of strategic partnerships that certainly require some resources. But anybody that's interested in leveraging the resources of the Robinson College to advance their own business, there are opportunities to build strategic partnerships. I think that's actually the great question, because it's kind of a misnomer. There's a lot of small to medium-sized businesses assume wrongly that we would only be interested in working with a Fortune 100 company or Fortune 50.
So now, regarding those strategic partnerships, it has to work both ways, right, in order to be a true partnership. You mentioned some of the things that the business could be providing to the college. What are some of the things that the business could be benefiting from in the relationship from the college? Sure.
One of the big pillars of activity that companies get benefit from is talent, whether that's bringing talent in to work for them, whether that's having folks on their team return to pursue an advanced degree, or some of our new cutting edge stackable graduate certificates, or whether it's just attending a workshop that we put on. So I think, the talent area, whether that's acquiring talent from us or having folks come back and reskill or upskill, is a huge piece. There are other areas around what we call sponsored research. So we have a number of strategic partners who bring projects to us, and we actually work in collaboration directly with them and their teams to work on a business to solve business problems. So we do that in a big way through the Institute for Insight and our Insight Sprints, very data-centric projects with our Masters of Analytics students, faculty, and others around those projects. We also do it in an undergraduate class called PACE, where client organizations bring problems, and we put a 4 or 5 person student team on that for the course of a semester, and it's actually part of a 4-credit class. So there's lots of ways to gain value, and again, you can go from very almost no cost up to very moderate costs, up to bigger investments in multi-year partnerships to do multiple projects.
So now, for you, what's the most rewarding part of the job?
Oh, wow. Great question. I've been in this business for almost 25 years, and there's just nothing like talking to a student, getting a sense of what their aspirations are, and then helping them, put a plan together and execute that plan and seeing it come together. And I'll give you a great example. One of my favorite programs that I've had the opportunity to be a part of is something called Panthers on Wall Street. So we recruit and prepare students who are interested in careers in New York, and we take them typically every fall to New York. We're actually going to do that in a virtual way this year. That program's been around for almost 12 years, and now every year we're actively placing students in really high quality jobs in New York City. And so, to see somebody show up in my office and ask a question about Panthers on Wall Street, and then within 6 months to a year, they're in an internship in New York, is just unbelievable, right? So to see that kind of professional mobility, social mobility, and to be part of that is just a huge reward.
So now, when you're talking to people around the country, maybe employers around the country, what is kind of the secret sauce you say that GSU graduates have that other maybe Georgia-based college folks don't have?
Yeah, I think what's really unique about our population is they're really prepared to work, and they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves and do whatever it takes to get the job done. They're not looking for they're looking for an opportunity, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to help that organization. And that determination, that grittiness, that lack of sort of sense of entitlement is really unique. And on top of that, we have one of the largest, most diverse talent pools in the country within the business school world, and it's what I call organic diversity. Right? It's who we are, and it's diversity across every dimension. And the students are really just a joy to work with, and the employers, when they engage with them, they usually just fall in love with our students.
Well, good stuff. Thank you so much for sharing your story today. If somebody wants to learn more about Robinson, is there a website?
Sure. I would just go to the college website, robinson.gsu.edu, and there's a plethora of information there. You can learn more, or don't hesitate to contact me directly. Happy to give you my email address. It's jaldrich@gsu.edu.
Good stuff, Jason. Thank you again for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on GSU ENI Radio. And once again, thank you to our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories, so please support them so we can continue our work.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.